Salvete, fratres et sorores. Bienvenido a todos. Welcome everyone to the Homebrew Podcast. We're sitting here this morning with a nice cup of espresso. And to start off this podcast, we have an interesting topic that I feel like a lot of people overlook in their day-to-day lives, and that is water. So, I was having trouble deciding on what topic we would talk about as our first subject for the podcast, and I had to go to my roots of why I think about things, and that's philosophy. And then I went all the way back to the roots of Western philosophy, which is Greek philosophy. My favorite Greek philosopher probably is Diogenes, but we're not talking about excrement or plucked chickens today. We're going back to who is seen as one of the first Greek philosophers, one of the first big Greek philosophers, and that's Thales of Miletus, or Thales of Miletus. I believe that's how you say it in Greek. Anyone who speaks Greek, correct me if I pronounce that wrong. Thales of Miletus, and his main subject he talked about was water. And ancient Greek philosophy was obsessed with what's called integration, which is trying to figure out what is the principal substance of all things. And Thales, being one of the first philosophers, thought very simply he thought it was water. And so where we have other people like Heraclitus, who thought it was fire, Democritus, who thought of like atoms, the atomos, and then we have Plato, kind of with the world of forms. But all of it is trying to figure out what is the substance that makes up every other substance on the planet, not just from a physical standpoint, but from a spiritual standpoint, from a moral standpoint, from a mathematical standpoint. Because a lot of Greek philosophers were what we would now describe as like multidisciplinary. A lot of them studied the body. A lot of them studied physical science. A lot of them studied into mathematics. And so you had philosophers that definitely specialized in one area, but a lot of them were pretty well versed in other areas too. And because of that, kind of all modern sciences can kind of trace its lineage, especially in the Western world. Most modern sciences can trace its lineage back to ancient Greek philosophy. So with all that being said, we're talking about water. So like I said, Thales, we'll get into Thales here in a second, but we have our gospel reading for today, or our scripture reading for today. We're going to go to the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verse 14. Let me see here, flip my Bible open. Chapter 4, verse 14. There we go. For some reason, I was on chapter 3, verse 14. But our scripture reading for today comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verse 14. Jesus says, "But whoever drinks the water that I shall give him will never thirst. The water that I shall give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." So, water. Let's go back to Thales for a second, and even before Thales. Water has always had a kind of religious significance throughout human history. Most human religions have some sort of water aspect in their creation story, in their development, in some major myths. And the main thing is water is so important to life. So in Hinduism, we have the Ganges River. I'm not sure what the story in Islam is, but at least in the Jewish religion and the Christian religion as well, we have the Tigris and Euphrates River, which is where somewhere in there was where the Garden of Eden was. We also have, of course, baptism in the Christian tradition. We have baptism as a way of washing away our sins, and so we have in many religious contexts, even to the ancient Greeks, water was very important. To who would have been ancient Greek to Thales, his ancestors, the Mycenaeans, they thought Poseidon was the chief god. That the Olympians were kind of all shuffled around throughout history of who was where and what was what. But to the Mycenaeans, for the most part, it seems that Poseidon, the god of the sea, was the was the one that ruled over all the other gods. That shifted to Zeus over time, but that's just how deep and important that water is to humanity, because water is so important to life. So for Thales to say that he thinks that all things in the universe are just comprised of water, it comes from a religious tradition that he belonged to, as well as an economic tradition. Miletus was a coastal town. It was on the western bank of Anatolia, and water and water transport and trade and even naval warfare, very important to certain city states within the Greek kind of region, the Greek influence region. So for many of them, water was just an aspect of life. And to Thales, the only liquid that he would have seen on a regular basis, the main liquids he would have interacted with, would have a major water component in them. Blood is, I think, 70% water, as well as wine and other things he would have drank. Mostly water in those. The alcohol content, even if it's a high alcohol content, it's still mostly water in that drink, and he would have probably watered it down, his wine, to kind of enjoy it better. The only liquids that he would have interacted with that, and even milk has a high water content in it, and the only liquids that I can think of that he would have interacted with that don't have a high water content would be like liquid fats. If he was eating melted butter or olive oil, that doesn't really have water in it. It has hydrogen and oxygen, could break down into water, but not as a part of the mixture. It's chemically bonded differently towards not water that's in there. But and then maybe like melted metals would have no water in them whatsoever. But Thales probably wouldn't have interacted with melted metal that much, and he would be kind of right in saying that water is inside of a lipid, inside of a fat. He would be kind of right in some way. And so for Thales, it would have been more of, once water solidifies, it takes different shapes of different things. And so first off, in the modern day, now that we have a knowledge of chemistry and biology and all these other fields of science that we've explored and we're continuing to explore and understand more of, we would probably say that Thales was dumb. Be like, how would you think that water is the main primary substance that makes up all other substances? But in a weird kind of roundabout way, Thales was right. Hydrogen, remember the chemical makeup of water is 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. The hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. So it makes up most of, well, it's a biological chemical. It's a biological element. So whenever you study biology, you're going to be dealing a lot with hydrogen, because all living things are comprised of hydrogen, has hydrogen in them, as well as carbon and nitrogen and oxygen. And a lot of chemical reactions have a hydrogen component somewhere in there, whether that's with water, whether that's with hydrochloric acid, or similar materials, similar chemicals that you're going to be using in a chemical reaction. There's hydrogen somewhere in there. So in kind of a weird way, Thales was almost right, but in reference to biological chemistry or biology or even anatomy, he would have been right. He would have been correct in saying that hydrogen is one of the principal components of everything, as well as oxygen. And he could just say water was the primary component of living life, and he would be right. So he was so close to being right in a way that he probably never would have expected. So that's just kind of the philosophical understanding of water from an ancient Greek perspective, as well as a religious perspective. Water has mostly been used in a religious perspective to describe washing away of things. So in the Ganges River, Hindus wash themselves in the Ganges River. For Christians, we are baptized and we wash ourselves. For Islam, for Muslims, it's they have a ceremonial washing they do. They have to bathe themselves so many times a day. And then for Jews as well, there's a ceremony of washing oneself. And then other religions too have a significance with water. Like I said, a lot of pagan religions, a lot of polytheistic religions have some sort of god of water or god of the ocean, or some sort of water related god or water related gods that all have a huge function in the circle of life and in how life is made up on the planet. And also we have kind of this psychological relation with water, wherein we don't know really what dwells in the water. We scuba dive down deep into the ocean, we sail, and we're kind of guests in this alien universe below the waves. We can conquer just about any region on land that we put our minds to. We have cities just about on every continent. We have people. In some areas we have more people, some areas we have less people, but we have people everywhere on land. But we don't really have people everywhere in the ocean. The ocean is alien. The ocean is weird. The ocean has these scary and interesting creatures down there that could eat us, probably would eat us if given the chance, and we don't know what else is down there. So from a psychological point of view, water is kind of instilled in us in being needed, but also very mysterious, which is kind of true in a chemistry perspective as well. Shifting over to a chemistry understanding of water, water is one of the weirdest chemicals to work with in a lab. It forms a crystal lattice whenever it solidifies from liquid into solid, but instead of most crystal structures, most things when they solidify, they become smaller in shape. Water gets bigger whenever it forms a crystal lattice, which is just weird. Water is also polar, which is part of the reason why it can form a crystal lattice is because it's polar. It has a bent shape when it comes to its Vesper structure. And so because of that, one part of the molecule is more electronegative and the other part is more electropositive, which is it makes it to where it can interact with other chemicals in kind of unique and interesting ways. But the more we study water, the more it confuses people. Just to kind of explain that. It's also important for most sciences. Celsius is a measurement of when water freezes and when water boils. Volume, the metric system, the units of volume is based around water. I'm going to get this right. 3 centimeters squared of water is 1 milliliter of water, and that is also 1 gram. So we can see that the relation of all 3 of those in science. So we overlook it because we interact with it every day, and it's so abundant in first world countries. But water is just so important to our everyday lives. It's foundational. Without it, we wouldn't be alive. Sorry, I had to get a drink of my coffee. Talking about water, drinking coffee. That's how we do it on this channel. And then from a biology point of view, water is, like I said, the most important compound for life. No ifs, no buts, no coconuts. Water is used in so many biological functions, even if it's not just water. Water's kind of main uses in the body would be stuff like it transports stuff throughout the body. Think about it like the bus system. Your veins and your arteries and all that is a means for your body to transport chemicals and cells around to help your body survive. And it uses water as its mode of transport. So it's like river systems where you're sending chemicals up and downstream. You're sending oxygen up and downstream. You're sending all this stuff up and downstream using water. Your body also uses water as a medium for other chemical reactions. So these chemical reactions, such as cellular respiration, such as protein synthesis and forming muscular tissue, water is the substance in which these reactions occur. It cools down. It can absorb a lot of heat, and your body uses it for temperature regulation as well. So you tend to be cooler whenever you drink water, and also your body uses it as a way to absorb shock. When your body has water in it, your muscles have a lot more sponginess to them. I'm not sure how to really describe it. Your muscles have a lot more springiness because there's water within your muscular tissue, that your body uses to help absorb hits. And also within your joints too. Drink enough water, you'll have better joint health, not perfect joint health, but better joint health than somebody who has the same routine and doesn't drink as much water. Um, so we look at water, and it's just from all these perspectives, it's just so important to life, and that's it's when you really sit about it, you can think about water for a while. Here I am talking. It's been 15 minutes since this podcast started, and we've been talking about water. But one thing that water also is it's within your food as well. Carbohydrates is getting all of the hate nowadays, but all carbohydrates is a carbon atom and a water molecule, and it's just different structures of that. And then, muscular tissue has water in it. Your DNA has the components of water and has hydrogen and oxygen in it. And so, like I said, water is important to every living thing on the planet. And that this leads us to our next kind of subject here is hydration. I'm huge into fitness. Part of the reason why I started this channel is to look at things from a philosophical, scientific, religious, and like a fitness point of view. And so you can't really talk about water well without talking about fitness and health. So hydration. The question is always, how much water do I have to drink? How much water should I drink? How much water am I drinking too much? Am I drinking too little? It's all these things these people ask. And you hear people say, drink 8-ounce cups a day and you're fine. For some people, that's just enough water. For some people, it's way too much water. For some people, that's not enough water, depending on what you're doing, how much your activity is. But I've, in my own life, kind of developed two ways. I've talked with doctors. I'm a pre-medicine student, but I've talked with doctors about this. Kind of gone back and forth with them over what they recommend people do, without having to do blood work, because a doctor can draw your blood. A doctor can take a urine sample or a stool sample and kind of use those to analyze how much water you have in your system and how much more or less water you should have in your system. But if you don't want to go through that process, let's say you live in the great old US of A, you don't have access to affordable healthcare, sadly. Those kind of blood tests can get expensive and get ridiculous, super ridiculous. And so let's say you don't have time for that, or you don't have the money for that, sadly. There are two means that I've kind of developed talking with doctors and just experimenting on my own life to make sure that I'm drinking enough water. And I think you can apply this to your life too. Now, this is not a doctor's prescription. I'm not giving you doctorly advice. Like I said, I'm not a doctor yet. So to get started, the first thing is your pee. This is the simplest thing. Your urine is a good indicator of how dehydrated you are. The darker your urine is, the more dehydrated you are. The clearer your urine is, the less dehydrated you are. So your body uses water to flush out waste materials. That's another reason why our body needs water. Is it flushes materials out, waste products, toxins we pee out, and so when you pee those things out, you're losing that water, and the more water you have in your system, the more diluted those toxins are, the more diluted that waste product is, and the clearer your pee is. So if you're peeing on a regular basis and it's more or less clear, you're drinking enough water. So I'd recommend to get like a scientific calculation of how much water you should. This isn't like perfectly scientifical, but keep like a water journal of how much water you drank that day and how often you peed and what color your pee was on average. This is kind of weird, so you might want to put this in like an app on your phone, like a notes app, where once you're done, you can delete it so people don't ask why you're looking at your pee all the time. But you just look at that and you can kind of understand, okay, I'm drinking this much water. Don't change anything for the first couple days you do this. I'm drinking this much water, just water, not soda, not Gatorade, not any of these things. We'll get into those here in a second. But just water, and you're going to write those down. And then all your measurements of how much water you drank, how often you peed, and on average what color your pee was. And then if you realize that you're not peeing that often and your pee is very dark, up your water content. Drink like 8 more ounces of water a day. And then if your pee clears up and you're peeing a little more often, that's good. And if you need to go more, go more. If you find yourself peeing way too much, like you're getting up every 10 minutes to go use the restroom, that's probably way too much water. We have kind of blown out of proportion the overhydration. The media tends to blow things out of proportion. And overhydration does happen. People do drown themselves by drinking too much water. But for most people, that won't happen. Those are a lot of those cases are pretty extreme, and for a lot of people that won't happen. For a lot of people, they should not fear that, I would say, because they should be just drinking more and more water. So, the second system of measuring your water content: how much energy would you say you have on a daily basis? Are you groggy all day? Are your muscles super fatigued, even if you haven't done that much physical labor? Now, you want to get a full night's rest when you do this, but just in your mind, measure how much water you drank and how generally awake and kind of ready to go you are on a daily basis. That's a perfectly good way as well. If you don't want to keep a pee journal, it's fine. But water helps your body kind of wake up and be more energized. Like I said, your body uses water for all of almost every function your body does. Water is somewhere in the components of it. So if you're underhydrated, your body does not have this medium to perform these biological functions to produce energy and to relax and to let your body recover. And with less water, your body does not have the capability to do that. So either system works pretty well on tracking how much water you should drink, and you'll have an estimate of how much water you should drink using that system, using either of those systems really, and it'll be kind of custom tailored to you. That way you know exactly how much you should drink. And you can take this same system if you have children, if you have family member that want to get more serious about staying hydrated. You can apply the same two systems to them too. It's really quick, it's really easy. It's not a scam where you are paying money to have some stupid influencers sell you some BS product that's supposed to triple your hydration. You don't need all that stuff. And that's kind of getting us into what I like to call the biohacking aspect of water. So within fitness and within kind of health science and all this, people that aren't doctors and people that aren't scientists like peddling products. They're kind of like modern day charlatans, modern day snake oil salesmen. They like overcomplicating water, overcomplicating hydration. They'll say things like, you aren't getting enough water. You need to drink this compound. You need to mix this mixture of powder with water, and you'll be more hydrated. And so kind of the granddaddy of all of that was Gatorade. So Gatorade is scientific. Gatorade is effective at what it's supposed to do. And what it's supposed to do is deliver the electrolytes your body needs to function. So electrolytes and hydration kind of go hand in hand. So we'll talk about electrolytes. We might do a deep dive on electrolytes at a later date. So keep electrolytes in the back of your head. We're just going to brush over what electrolytes are and what they do. What electrolytes are, they are components that are aqueous in water, which means they kind of break up in water and kind of intermix, that conduct electricity. So depending on where these elements or compounds fall on the periodic table or their makeup, they have a particular charge, and that charge allows them to conduct electricity through water. So the one I like to always point to is table salt. It's got sodium and it's got chlorine, sodium chloride. The sodium has a net positive charge. The chlorine has a net negative charge. So the sodium is going to attract a negative charge, and the chlorine is going to attract a positive charge. Law of opposites. And you can actually do this if you have, you can actually kind of measure the conductivity of your tap water and put salt in it and measure that too. It's a really fun science lab to do with your kids if you have children, or you could just do it on your own. Kind of look up how to measure electrolytes conductivity. There's home labs you can buy, or you can just buy the components on your own and kind of learn about this stuff, teach yourself this stuff. but they conduct electricity. And so what I want you to do, all of you that are listening that can do this, I want you to hold out your hand, whether your left hand, your right hand, doesn't matter. I want you to have your hand palm facing down. Now I want you to turn your hand palm facing up. Now I want you to clench your hand into a fist and now release. What you just did is you sent electrical signals from your brain through your central nervous system into your muscles, telling your muscles to contract and then to release. Part of the contraction is supinating your wrist, and then the other is making a fist and releasing it. That's all what your body does to motate is electrical pulses through your central nervous system to your muscles to do its thing. That's what you do. That's what every animal does on the planet to motate. So electrical pulses, they need electrolytes to be able to send up and down your central nervous system. These electrical pulses require things like require all the electrolytes. And so what those electrolytes are, I'll list them out. Long story short, when your body is drained of electrolytes, you're going to feel more fatigued, and you're not going to be able to have as much output in exercise as you are before. And I'll explain how Gatorade ties into all this and how Gatorade really works. So I have all the electrolytes written down. Now, one of these is not usually put in the electrolyte family because it's non-aqueous, but it still performs a lot of the same tasks as a lot of the other electrolytes. So I put it in the list just to cover my bases here. So not in no particular order. The electrolytes are sodium, potassium, chlorine, magnesium, calcium, zinc, phosphorus, iron, phosphate, and what's the other one? What's that one called? I just wrote down the chemical name. I just wrote down the chemical structure of it and not the bicarbonate. Sorry, bicarbonate. So sorry about that. So unprofessional of me. That's bicarbonate. So what all of these do is they with the exception of zinc, because zinc isn't aqueous if I remember right. What all of these do is they absorb into the water within your blood, within your body, within your central nervous system, and they help those electrical signals go down the chain to your muscles to be able to contract and release. So in strenuous exercise or strenuous physical work, when you're lifting heavy things, or let's say in the sense of Gatorade, you're a football player and you're going through long games and long practices in the summertime, and in the winter you're playing these long games, you're sweating a lot. Your sweat is a lot of those electrolytes being forced out of your body. A lot of them are used up and your body sweats them out to help cool off. And what happens is you get more fatigued because part of the reason is your body is losing these electrolytes. So your body is losing the ability to contract its muscles and release its muscles with the same amount of efficiency. That's part of the reason why you get cramps, not 100%, but the electrical signal to release just isn't sent. It isn't received by the muscles, so it's stuck in a state of contraction for a period of time. Cramps have their own, depending on what type of cramp it is, it has its own system, but some cramps, especially during exercise, a lack of hydration, lack of electrolytes. But what these electrolytes do, like I said, they send and receive those signals. They also help your body retain the water. So retain water for retain the medium in which these chemical reactions to help your muscles produce energy is also being lost. So what electrolytes do is they help maintain those. They also help with recovery. They help with your muscles' recovery over time, and rebuilding muscular tissue once it's torn in exercise. And so how Gatorade pours into all this, how Gatorade pours into all of this is it is a drink with electrolytes in it. It has salt, it has potassium, it has magnesium, has all these things in it to replenish your electrolytes whenever you need it. Now, for most people, they don't need a drink like Gatorade because Gatorade has a lot of sugar in it to help kind of give you a sugar rush as well and help it taste better. And it also contains Some people say it's an ineffective amount of electrolytes. Some people say it's an over-effective amount of electrolytes. But for the most part, most people don't need this unless you're like an athlete, like a soldier, or maybe someone who works a really physically demanding job in like construction or something like that. Gatorade, you're not going to get the most out of your Gatorade by just drinking it throughout the day. You might, if you exercise a lot, you might benefit to drink a little bit of Gatorade here and there, or make your own type of electrolyte drink. You can do so with salt. There's different recipes you can find online of making a Gatorade-like drink that has less sugar in it if you're trying to watch your sugar, or if you just don't want to like put on weight while drinking your electrolytes. But electrolytes are found in most of our food. So salt is a good example. Make sure you're getting enough salt, table salt, in your day-to-day life. Bananas have potassium in them. You can take a magnesium supplement, zinc supplements. A lot of foods are fortified with iron as well, so you can take those. You can eat those as well to get kind of your all your electrolytes in your body kind of replenished. Like I said, Gatorade and all these sports drinks that people try to sell to you, a lot of them are for people that are pushing themselves to a limit that is not a part of normal life. Normal life for most people in the first world, you don't need all these super hydrating drinks. That you don't need any of those. But if you're an athlete, you might consider them. You might consider something like them to be able to give you the edge to help you recover, help you stay energized over a long workout session, a long exercise session, a long period of strenuous labor. And definitely if you're a soldier, like in Afghanistan or something, you need drinks like this to replenish those electrolytes, or else your body's just going to start shutting down over time. And then we also want to talk about a little substance that used to be a how do I say? Sorry, a drink of coffee. A substance that used to be comparable to drugs in a lot of people's minds, and that is creatine. So, what is creatine? Well, in short, again, we might take a deep dive into creatine in a later video, so I'm going to keep it kind of brief here. Creatine is a substance that helps your body keep water inside its muscles. You get creatine from red meats. Red meats are a good source of creatine, but a lot of people can supplement with creatine by buying like a creatine monohydrate powder and just putting a little bit in their water and drinking it. Now, if you're working out, if you're trying to put on muscle, if you're trying to make really good strength gains, creatine's pretty cheap compared to other supplements, and one of the most effective supplements you can get in terms of what it does, how useful it is for most everyone on the planet in the fitness world, and how much it costs. I mean, it's the only supplement that I think is worth your buck as much as creatine is would be like a good whey protein powder. But for most people, they get enough protein in their diet, but they don't get enough creatine in their diet. So I honestly would put creatine slightly above whey protein powder, and somewhere with a really good multivitamin as well. So creatine, I have the chemical formula drawn out. I don't know why I drew it out. I'm just a nerd like that. But creatine, it has water in it, but not bonded as water. It has some oxygen molecules and some carbon molecules and some hydrogen molecules and nitrogen. There it is. Sorry, my creatine model I drew, I was missing an oxygen, so I had to put it in its place. But creatine, what that does is, like I said, it helps you stay hydrated. But if you're going to be supplementing creatine, 5 grams of creatine, is a good amount to start with. And then you want to make sure you're do all your pee testing, your energy testing before you take creatine. But like I said, if you are supplementing with creatine, drink plenty of water. For 5 grams of creatine, you should be maintaining a good amount of hydration as well, because creatine is going to it's going to give you like that cotton mouth feeling if you're not drinking enough water, because what it's doing is it's forcing the water that's in the rest of your body into your muscles. It's kind of taking that water from your other parts of your body and kind of putting them in your muscular tissue of your muscles. It's also going to make you recover easier and have more energy. Like I said, our energy thing, it's not like a steroid energy or an energy drink type of energy. It is just less muscularly fatigued and probably a little more mentally alert in general, but not like a spike like caffeine does or a sugar rush does. What creatine does is kind of just helps your body maximize its levels of energy in a regular sense, not spiking them. Um, it's more gradual over time, and creatine needs to be absorbed into your muscles. So that's why they say you should load creatine. You should take like 25 grams a day for a week, and then back off, and then do 5 grams. They say that some people say you should just do 5 grams, and then you'll gradually get more energy. It's a matter of opinion of how you want to do it. I personally just do. I used to load, and then I deloaded off creatine because I ran out of creatine. So I kind of portioned myself out where I was having less and less until my supply ran out, and then I bought more. There was a great creatine. Like creatine for some reason went up in price for a while, and now it's kind of back down to a more regular price. So in that, I just wasn't able to buy it. I was kind of broke. So, but now what I do is if I ever run out again and I'm waiting on my next shipment of creatine to come in, I don't load anymore. I just take 5 grams and just let it slowly build up in my body. That's fine. Loading is if you want more immediate results with creatine, but if you just have patience and you don't really care that much in terms of like getting immediate results, just do 5 grams and just keep taking 5 grams, and over time it'll build up in your body and you'll be fine. But so that's creatine, and that is electrolytes. So next we're going to talk about the pitfalls of hydration. So like I said, electrolytes and creatine are now kind of hot sell items in the supplement world. So creatine monohydrate is kind of the most abundant form of creatine. It's the simplest form of creatine, and in my opinion, it's the most effective form of creatine for how much you're spending on it. With creatine, when it comes to creatine and it's kind of the different families of creatine, monohydrate's the simplest, and I follow the KISS mentality in most of my life. Keep it simple, stupid. There are other forms of creatine that supplement companies will try to push, like, oh, this is the most scientifically developed and it's going to make you even better. But a lot of the science on this stuff is new. It hasn't been, especially in these new components that supplement companies are producing. It's like a trademarked thing that they're releasing, and so because it's trademarked, it's a lot harder for scientists to study it and study its effectiveness within living organisms. And so a lot of protein powders nowadays will say like, oh, contains 3 grams of creatine per serving, and then other stuff as well. And then even now looking at, I have seen, Gatorade doesn't do this, but similar sports drink products are now saying they have creatine in their electrolyte drinks, which is just crazy to me. The more words they use and the more components they put in their product, the less it is worth your money, I would say. So any of these people, especially if it's like an Herbalife salesman or something similar that is saying like, it's a super hydrating compound to get your muscles and your organs having the most hydration with your cells, it's BS a lot of the times. It's total BS. Either it's total BS or it's overpriced, because they say that it helps flush water into your cells faster to rehydrate you because it has all these components in it. And in the human body, it's actually the opposite. Pure water, I'm talking deionized or distilled water, the purest water you can have, where it's nothing but water in the container, actually goes into your cells faster than water with minerals in it or creatine in it. That's scientifically proven. And in fact, what a lot of athletes will do is they'll drink pure water whenever they're training, because it hydrates them faster. Now, they'll also have an electrolyte drink or some sort of electrolyte supplement they're taking as well. That way they're not completely flushing out their electrolytes. But the fastest way to hydrate your cells scientifically is drinking pure distilled water. So a lot of these companies that will try to sell you on a product that say like it'll hydrate you faster, don't believe them. Just don't do it. They're trying to use big words and science you don't understand to sell you a product that kind of works. And because it kind of works, and because they throw all these big words at you, their hope is that you believe it really, really works and that you'll buy more of it. If you really delve deep into the science and you delve deep into anecdotal evidence from athletes and people who've kind of had to test this stuff on themselves and other people, you'll see that these products they kind of work, but there's cheaper, more effective ways of doing it. And there was another thing I was going to talk about. I really forget it. Here, we're going to take a break here for undisclosed amount of time. I'm going to return and record another section on water and hydration and probably something to do with snake oil salesmen. We'll be back in just a few minutes. I will see you, and to you guys will just be a split second. And we are back. Sorry, I had to take a quick break there, rehydrate. My throat was getting pretty dry. But the next we want to talk about in terms of hydration is caffeine and hydration. Like I said, we might do a deep dive on caffeine at a later date, so we're just going to keep it simple here. But caffeine is a diuretic. That's part of what it does. So a lot of you that drink caffeine and you feel like you have to poop immediately afterward, that's kind of what caffeine is supposed to do. Part of its compound is to be a diuretic. And because of that, it does drain your body of water. That's how it's dehydrating you, and so if you drink a lot of drinks like soda or a lot of coffee or a lot of tea, your body is going to be dehydrating at a rate faster than the rate in which it's absorbing the water that you're drinking. I don't know the exact numbers on soda, let's say like a bottle of Coca-Cola. I would never be sponsored by Coca-Cola, by the way, or Pepsi, or any sort of soda. I think soda is terrible for you. I don't drink the stuff. You shouldn't drink the stuff either. Soda has a lot of caffeine in it. And so when you drink this, let's say it's 16 ounces of soda and X amount of milligrams of caffeine. So what your body is doing is it's replacing the water in your body with the water component of the soda. Let's say 14 ounces of the 16 ounces of water is of the 16 ounces of the drink, 14 ounces of it is water. Sorry, I had to get the math right in my head. And then the other 2 ounces is the caffeine and everything else, the flavorings, the sugars, all that stuff, the coloring in it. Your body is going to be losing more water than that 14 ounces that you're consuming. Or let's flip it over to metric system. Let's say it is half a liter of soda, and then a third of that liter, or 3/4 of that liter is water, and then 1/4 of that liter is everything else. Well, that 3/4 of a liter of a half a liter that you're drinking of water is not going to be enough to replace the amount of water that you're losing with the diuretic component of that soda. And then even with clear sodas as well that don't contain caffeine, the carbonated water within that, your body doesn't hydrate as well as it would with just uncarbonated water. The carbonation kind of gives it the fizzy effect to it. If your water fizzes, you're probably not getting good hydration out of it, as a good rule of thumb. If your drink is fizzy, you're probably not getting a good amount of water. But if we compare that to something like alcohol, historically humans have drank more alcohol than they on a regular basis do now. The Puritans to be damned, or the what are the ones that tried to abolish the I don't know what they called them. The people that tried to abolish the sale and process of alcohol in the United States. Be damned. um, alcohol is as human as it comes. Um, Historically, we've drank more alcohol than we did nowadays, and it's because the water within the alcohol kind of sterilizes. And so it was a really good way of sterilizing water, even if our ancestors didn't understand that. And depending on what they were drinking with the inside their beer, with inside their wine, was enough to compensate for the water lost by the processing of alcohol, because your body, alcohol is a poison technically. Um, and so your liver and your kidneys are working overtime to keep that poison from killing you. Um, and so it uses water to flush that out. But depending on the alcohol content of whatever you're drinking, how much percent alcohol it is, you're getting enough water to flush that out. You're just going to be very hungover. You just need to drink water with it. Yeah, that's alcohol and caffeine. Juice and fruits are also something I want to talk about. So fruits and fruit juice contain a lot of water. That's why fruits are so juicy. It's the water in the flesh of that fruit. That's what makes it so moist and juicy to bite into. That's just water with other stuff in it too. It's got some sugars floating around in there, some other minerals and vitamins and all that stuff floating around in there. So fruits are a really good way to kind of get some extra water in your diet. You don't want to use fruits as a main source of your water, or fruit juice as a main source of your water. But if you're gonna do it, do it. I think most people need more fruits and vegetables as well. Vegetables are a good source of water. Leafy greens have a lot of water in them, as well as like most vegetables. I can't think of a vegetable that doesn't have a good amount of water in it. Eat your veggies, eat your fruits. Our ancestors did, and they were perfectly fine. A lot of them were healthier than us in many respects. And on this channel, we believe in maximizing the human potential, not strictly living like, oh, our ancestors did this, so we have to, or our ancestors did this, so we shouldn't. I'm after maximizing how do we make people the most healthy and the strongest. And all the science I've read on dieting points to fruits and vegetables. And as it relates to hydration, if you eat a good amount of fruits and vegetables, as well as drinking, a regular amount of water, your body's going to be well hydrated. And these fruits and vegetables, some of them contain those electrolytes we talked about earlier. So you won't have to supplement with, Gatorade. You'll be replenishing that as you go on. So I think that's just about everything that I wanted to talk about with water. The more we study water, like I said, the more mysterious and cool it is, at least to me, and a lot of scientists as well. Remember to hydrate. Remember to keep yourselves hydrated. Remember to make sure your family members are staying hydrated. Don't overcomplicate water. Water is already complicated enough. No need to overcomplicate it with buying all this stuff that people peddle to you. New video, I don't know what the subject matter is going to be on the new video. I don't know when the next album reaction is going to be. That takes a lot of time to record. I also have to edit it and make sure I have a lot to kind of be candid with you guys. Whenever I'm reacting to an album, there is a lot of dead space of me just listening, and I don't react to a lot of it. I chop out a lot of that stuff, and it takes a lot of time, and I'm in college, so I'm a STEM major. Like I said, I'm a pre-med major, so I'm a STEM major. So I don't have a lot of time to sit there and cut and chop episodes together. So album reactions will come when they come. I just need to make time to do them, and I just haven't had the drive to, because it's such a long process. But a video like this, where I'm talking about something that I love learning about and something that I feel like people need to have think more about, is a good thing for me to be able to talk about. But if you like the video, I ask that you please drop a like if you like the video. If you want to continue the discussion of water, down below. Like I said, we're not going deep into creatine, deep into the electrolytes just yet, or deep into supplements just yet. So if you want to discuss those, if you want me to talk about those, please put them in the comments. If there's a subject that you want me to talk about from a philosophical, religious, and scientific point of view, feel free to drop it below. It might be a subject that I know about, or it might be a subject that I will learn about in the future, that I need to learn in being a doctor, that I can put in kind of more layman's terms for you guys. And feel free to share with your friends. If they need to drink more water, send this almost hour long video with them, and they can they can have some fun probably. But I love you guys. I'm praying for all of you. Remember, Jesus loves you. He died for your sins, and he wants personal relationship with you. Y'all take care of yourselves. You be safe. You be healthy, and you enjoy whatever it is you're going about for the rest of your day, evening, morning, night. You enjoy the rest of it. Love you guys. Bye.